Hello, beautiful ones. Welcome. I'm a little bit early because I wanted to make sure and honor the time that YouTube posted, which was 4:40. And it is technically 4:44 that we're going to officially begin, but feel free to start making yourselves comfortable. Make sure you have water to drink. Type in the chat if you want to say hello. And we'll get started here in just a moment. We are grateful to be here. The Council of Light is just acknowledging they are here. They're waving hello to each of you. And your guides, your advisors, your masters, and angels working with you are also fully present, your higher selves. Such a beautiful energy that we're in right now. Post-summer solstice, on the cusp of the full moon. And I know it's been a month, really, which is amazing. I can't believe it's been a month since the summer solstice, but it's like a ripple. It's like an echo of that energy. And it's going to continue to be part of the fabric until the equinox, really. Hi, hello, hi. Nice to see everyone. Grateful you're here. Thank you for showing up. Your guides are thanking you for listening, for saying yes. And I'll just do a little bit of kind of housework or whatever they call it, maintenance work while we're preparing to really dive and begin. And so if you're new to our sessions, it's like, imagine that your higher self is the gatekeeper for you. And so you can literally just invite your higher self to take the reins, to be, it's you, it's not something separate from you. It's a part of you that is like in its mastery, in its knowing. And you can let it kind of decide what's here for you to be, do, and have, and what you're meant to not pick up at this time. And when we do energetic work, sometimes there are processes that come forward that don't resonate for you specifically, that maybe aren't for you specifically, or for your body to have specifically. So you just simply let your higher self discern that for you. You can literally choose to put your higher self in charge, to take what's here for you and to leave what isn't. And they're getting ready. We're getting ready to launch. I can feel it. So deep breath in. Got another few seconds here, but just finding the lines of energy. Okay. So whenever I do sessions like this, I literally really don't know ahead of time what's going to come through. I just show up and follow the energy. And it's really a collaboration of the Council of Light working with your higher selves. And it's a bit of a channeling, but it's a collaboration. So it's as if my higher self is literally in collaboration with the Council of Light in a higher dimension, your higher selves, and then it downloads to me here. So just inviting everyone to take a deep breath in, and in your own unique way, leaning into that part of you that knows, your I am presence, your higher self. Recognizing that you're much more than you currently perceive yourself to be. You're actually a vast being of light that emanates from an infinite source, that has access to infinite resources, infinite supply, infinite support, infinite wisdom. And as we set up the energy for this session, allowing heaven as a possibility, we invite you to kind of ponder that idea. If I knew that heaven wasn't really a place. It's more of a energy that I can attune to. And it's just like a radio dial. If I attune to that frequency and I emit that, because I'm a transmitter of energy as a being of light, it reflects into my world. It becomes my world. So what if you actually knew that heaven was a possibility? I wonder what that would feel like. And so just allowing yourself to play in that energy of possibility, wondering, I wonder what that would feel like. I wonder what it would feel like and be like to know that I have this radio dial within me that I can attune to whatever station I wish to, and heaven is one of those stations, and I could literally choose it through my conscious free will and choice. That would be really cool. Deep breath in. Whatever doesn't allow you to fully connect to that, will you release and uncreate it? Any doubts, any fears, any hesitation or skepticism? It's like, what if we're just kind of imagining, playing in the energy right now, possibility? And so just modeling that energetic stance now of that childlike kind of contemplation, where we're literally just wondering, I wonder what it would feel like if I knew heaven was a possibility. And so whenever we begin to reach for a different frequency, whatever we're holding within our energetic fields that can't go to that frequency will start to come forward. So if you're witnessing thoughts or perceptions of doubt or disbelief or not deserving, that's what's coming up to leave. And the thing about when we do this energetic work, it requires our permission to shift. It's coming up as if to say, do you still choose me as a thought? Do you still choose to agree with you don't deserve it, or you can't have it, or it's not possible? And so this journey in consciousness, one way you can approach it is to choose what you're choosing and then allow the stuff to bubble up that is incompatible with the choice. And then choose in the midst of that information to say, I don't choose to agree or believe this anymore. I don't choose to agree with it anymore. I choose to let it go. And then we can choose that on a conscious level. Very powerful indeed. But you give it much more momentum when you take the hand of your higher self then, and you invite your higher self to shift it for you, because your higher self knows every nook and cranny of your consciousness and every single belief or thought you've ever agreed to. Your higher self knows your whole entire journey, not just this incarnation. It knows the recesses of unconscious agreements, if you will. So the more that you can begin leaning into this aspect of you and allowing it to choose to shift what's ready to shift. So it's like you choose to invite your higher self, you ask your higher self to shift it, and then you allow. Okay, I'm not going to micromanage it. I'm going to let my higher self figure it out. And I use this symbolism a lot, the idea of imagine if you were hypnotized to see yourself, perceive yourself as much less than what you actually are. You would hire, if you knew that, you would hire the best hypnotist to hypnotize you and to unhypnotize you, basically. And so that's really the process here. Well, on some level, I've agreed to pretend to be less than what I am for whatever reason. We don't even have to know why we chose it. But it happened somewhere in the past because I'm currently experiencing a lot of limitation in my experience of myself. That's the indicator. The physical realm is the feedback of what we've chosen in the past. So you can see it. It's like a mirror. It's a reflection. What's running in my energetic fields? Well, look around you. What's running in your energetic fields? Are you perceiving heaven around you? Or is there some distortion present that is not that? That is maybe a lack, fear, a not enough. And we're not speaking really in terms of the collective, because the collective humanity is going to have its own experience of its journey. You can actually choose to have a very different experience of your journey while humanity goes through what it's going through. So we're going to bring in some energetic downloads to show you what we really mean by that. And as a multidimensional being, you actually hold the keys to your experience. You don't have to agree with the status quo. You don't have to go along with everyone else's choices. You can rise above the herd, so to speak. And it's not about being better than, it's about making a different choice from a higher octave of consciousness because you are awake enough to know that it's available. And you're stepping back into your power from a place of authenticity, integrity, remembering truth, which in the grand scheme of things, that's what life is always calling you toward. Source is always calling you back to source, to the remembering of truth, to the remembering of you as an extension of an infinite source. That remembering of oneness, not separation. Separation has been the experience of humanity for quite some time. In other words, most of humanity identifies as though they are separate from their source. They are the small self, and the only resources I have access to is what I can see and perceive with my five senses in front of me, out in the outer world. That's how most of humanity is wired. Many of you know this. You've been doing work with us for some time. You know it on a very deep level, that it's not as it seems. So we're just going to invite you at the level of your higher self to first reorient how you perceive yourself. This is kind of the first step into allowing heaven as a possibility, is to align with who you actually are in truth. And you get to decide how you identify. In other words, you're choosing who you think you are. And whatever you agree with is how you'll experience yourself, because that's how powerful you are. So what if it was possible for you to choose in this now moment to reorient yourself in alignment with what's actually true? Instead of identifying as a small self that's kind of in the middle of an ocean with a life preserver and nothing around you, separate from source, abandoned, alone, left to fend for yourself. What if that was never true? What if that's actually the epitome of plugging into the separation consciousness grids and systems? That's how we'll experience ourselves. We'll literally experience ourselves as kind of floundering, as lost, as not supported, not safe, not loved, separate, not connected. So anywhere in your consciousness or your body Davis consciousness where that's an identification happening, it's like, yeah, I kind of perceive that I'm kind of on my own and I don't really have that infinite supply that I know some part of me knows within me is my birthright, to really be connected to all life and to just, for it to be easy, for it to be grace and ease, for it to be in a flow, for it to be in a symbiotic collaboration with oneness and allness. Heaven, part of you knows heaven is a possibility. Will you let that part of you step forward and support this other part of you that's identified as separate to begin to welcome a different perception of itself in a gentle, graceful way? It's really just your permission. Yes, I'm willing. Then the higher self can do the work. Deep breath in. And so for many of us, from birth, we wired into identifications as though we were separate from source. And then we entered these codependent relationships, probably with parents, looking to them to be source. And when we look to anything to be source that's not really source, we're going to experience ourselves as though we're separate, because it's never enough energy, because nothing other than source was ever meant to be your source. So we're going to show you what we mean by that. It's almost like when we agreed that we were separate from source, we believed it, we thought it was true. We began to find the best substitute we could for an infinite source. And so as a young child, parents, be my source, take care of me, take responsibility for me. And the thing with that is that as soon as we give responsibility away to anything outside of us, we're going to then agree energetically, this is unconscious and energetic, agree to experiencing ourselves as separate, agree to experience ourselves as a victim, and just let that land. So one of the big pieces that humanity is being invited to graduate from right now is the identification as victim in any area of life. And to really hold, to retrieve all that energetic responsibility back to the level of the higher self for meeting all needs at source level. And when we say that, source is within you. So source is technically part of you, and you emanate directly from source. So there is no separation. And when we reference it appropriately within us, we hold responsibility for accessing and meeting all our needs within us, then we get to have. And when we get to have, it's like we're giving ourselves permission to align with the divine blueprint, with the divine design. There's no lack, ever. It doesn't exist because it's a very different frequency. Lack only exists in a kind of imaginary world of separation where we pretend to not be one with source. So are you ready to retire in this full moon energy that we're in? It's a wonderful time to retire and complete things. Are you willing to retire lack as an agreement? What if we don't have to agree that it's what we thought it was anymore? And there's energy moving. Deep breath in. What if it's an indicator. If we're experiencing some kind of lack, it's an indicator where we've given responsibility for a need to something outside of us. And we're trying to source it outside of us. Good. Yes, exactly. So inviting you at the level of your higher self, Body Davis higher self and teams, to work with the energetic fields and the guides to retrieve. And again, this just requires your permission. Higher self, will you do this? Retrieve all responsibility that you gave to anyone or anything outside of you to be the source for you. Whether it was the source of wisdom, love, abundance, support, sustenance, comfort. We know this is radical. Stay with us for a moment. Anything. Peace. Have you given responsibility away to an event or a circumstance to bring you peace? It doesn't live out there. It really doesn't live out there. Out there is the reflection. Bring those reference points for where you're looking for all those qualities, those, we'll call it infinite supply of goodness. Bring it back to your beam of light. Reference it within your light. You have an infinite, vast river of light that flows within you. That's where it all lives. Doesn't live out here. That's the illusion. That's where we get tripped up. So we start to give away our power and give away responsibility and not hold it appropriately so that we'll actually access the infinite supply of support and love and safety and freedom that is within our river. So the piece of identification here is, am I seeing myself as this infinite river and standing in that version of me? Or have I put on a costume of pretend, and am I over here hanging out, pretending to be separate from source and this infinite supply of all things? And it's a choice. So if you're choosing to step back into the river, the waterfall, stream of consciousness, of light that is you, invite your higher self to do it for you. Higher self, I'm choosing to step back into who I am in truth. Will you help me? Inviting you at the level of your higher self, Body Davis, higher self, and teams to work with the energetic fields and the guides to retrieve all your reference points for all your needs, where you're trying to source anything externally, bringing it back to your beam of light, your column of light that emanates directly from source, that has its own unique essence. Your unique extension of source. Technically your source itself, but not from this level. From this level of perception and where we're currently experiencing ourselves, it requires us to really lean into this stream that runs along the front of the spine, that emanates directly from the heart of source, and choose through our conscious free will to identify as that light rather than what we accomplish, what we don't accomplish, what we do, what we don't do, what happens in our experience of ourself in the outer world. That's not who you are. That's what you experience yourself as. That's very different things. Who you are is this light. And heaven is within this light as a possibility. Everything exists there that you could possibly choose ever. It's infinite. And at various levels of consciousness, we'll reach for different experiences, different choices. But in this moment, the only moment that ever really exists, this now, will you choose to stand in what you are, to know who you are in truth, in an energetic way, not an intellectual way yet, just energetically. And if it's yes, you can say yes. Deep breath in. We're going to support you in that. Supporting you in bringing all your reference points for your identity off of everything external, referencing your identity as the beam of light that you truly be, that is very intricate, very vast, very dynamic, very layered, very complex, exquisite, powerful, loving, joyful, expansive, determined, brave. So many qualities there. Letting you just be in this for a moment. Good. This is the I am that I am invitation. You could also, if it resonates more, to lean into I know who I am in truth. It's that attunement. And in this orientation of you, you can access the keys to the kingdom. Yay! Deep breath in. We're going to invite a balancing and stabilizing of your energetic fields, updating all grids, all reference points, all ways in which you perceive and are perceived. Shake out, reboot. We're not done, but this is the orientation of, it's like, imagine you have all these dimensions of you and you can access, this is a linear interpretation. It's not really vertical. Like, I don't want to say, it's not really linear. But we're going to give a linear interpretation to help the mind really get this and connect to it. It's like, so imagine that you have all these dimensions of you that we're going to use the symbolism of a skyscraper, where you have different floors that you can access through an elevator, and you can get out on different floors, different dimensions. And in each floor, there's different frequency, different qualities there, different resonance experience of yourself, therefore. And your elevator can get accessed when you go within the tube of light. Then you get in the elevator and you can go up and down to different dimensions of you. You can access different dimensions of you. You can activate different dimensions of you. You can remember the vastness of your resources on all these different floors, in all these dimensions that you have access to. And have you explored these, like, what's on these floors? What do I even have access to? And so we're going to invite your higher selves, body Deva's higher selves, to begin to remind you. It's always vibrationally first. It's not really in words or story. To remind you of all the resources you actually have access to. Because if you can imagine what heaven's like, well, I just have everything. Everything is really flowing and easy and graceful and joyful and loving and abundant. Like, I just have. Kind of thriving there. There's compatible relationships. There's not really any distortion with regard to like conflict or struggle, or it doesn't exist there. So can you locate those dimensions within you where that already is happening? Invite your higher self to do that for you. It's a bit like if we were to get on a computer and search for something and type in the search, find this for me, enter, and the computer comes up with, here it is. Imagine that your higher self is this supercomputer part of you that you can simply make a request. Hey, higher self, will you find this for me? What dimension of me, within me, does heaven already exist? And then just breathe and allow and wait. It's like you go into receptivity then. You make the request, then you allow. You wait, you breathe. So inviting some energetic aspect of you that knows, same for body and teams, to energetically locate the dimension that is most like heaven, that a part of you knows very well, that exists within you, to be remembered, to be accessed. Inviting that energetic aspect of you to receive it in that appropriate dimension, in that realm, what it feels like there, what it's like, what the energetic stance you're holding, what it's like what your relationship is with it. Bringing that all of that in, receiving it 10 times more than you would ever need to receive it in this other dimension. Again, just allowing this other part of you to do it far beyond the mind. We're just making the request. And then reflect it to yourself here. Deep breath in. And notice what you notice. So that tool is a way you can work with your higher self to attune yourself to any specific anything. In this case, we're looking at heaven. I wonder what that would feel like. Well, higher self, find a dimension of me where I'm already being that, where it's already my experience of myself. Receive it, drink it in, amplify it, reflect it to me here. Because remember, the physical dimension is the reflection. And we know that you have to hear that probably 20,000 times for it to really be our new default go-to way of thinking. But that's how we can access all of what we are, is by orienting appropriately in relationship to the physical realm. Because we think the physical realm is the not the tip of the iceberg. We think it's the whole enchilada. Then we take all our energy and we invest it just in the physical realm. And things get distorted really quickly because now we're not using our energy to access all of our resources in all these other dimensions where we can actually have and then reflect it to ourselves here. It's like a magic wand. You are a magic wand. You have access to everything within you. And so I wonder what it would take for you to begin, if you haven't already, to reorient yourself into identifying as the most powerful, amazing, infinite creator being of light that you actually be. And whatever doesn't allow that, will you release and uncreate it? Deep breath in. So, a little bit of housework here. I'm getting a message that my connection is not good. Are you guys able to hear and see me okay? Can you let me know if it's cutting out or not? Okay, thanks, Sheila. Okay. So, are you a little exhilarated in this remembering? We know many of you have already remembered this to some degree, but are you a little exhilarated with this remembering that you get to be this much magic, this much amazingness, this much, you can access everything? Is that exhilarating to you? Even if up until now you've been practicing and trying, um, to kind of work some pieces and it's come out distorted. We're going to look at that actually next. Okay, so everybody's saying they can hear me mostly. The picture kind of messes up, but that's okay. As long as you can hear me. Okay, deep breath in. So, are there any of you that have worked with this idea of generating a more harmonious experience of your life where it kind of doesn't always work? It's like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. So, we're going to bring in some energetic downloads around that first, unique to each of you. And the energetic formulas to support you in beginning to reinterpret your relationship with, we're going to call it manifesting into a higher octave. So it's like wherever you've been kind of working with manifesting, just inviting it to kind of go to the next level. Because that's really what many of us who are on this path of conscious awareness and evolution, what we're being invited to begin to model, to do for ourselves and then model, demonstrate for humanity, is how to live as one with an infinite source. That's really it. And that's what heaven on earth is, as an experience, where we're literally walking in this gentle, graceful way on our journey, and everything we need just shows up in a very rhythmic, systematic, coherent, symbiotic way. It's like we're in sync with life itself. It's just magical. It's because we're in sync with who we are. Then we get to experience ourselves as in sync with all life. Let that land. And deep breath in. Good. Okay. So we're going to look at some of the reasons why distortion happens. One of the reasons is what we just talked about, where I'm not really oriented in the truth of who I am. I kind of waver, where some days I am identified as the beam of light that I am, and some days I'm identifying as the separate small self that doesn't have. And so we get then a hit or miss. It's like if we were to turn a light switch on and off. Sometimes the light would be on, sometimes it would be off, because we're literally toggling it. So recognize that however things are showing up out here is an indicator of how you're identifying. Who have I decided I am today? And your way of checking in. Then the other reasons are what distortions are running in your energetic fields that are not yet cleaned up, processed, or returned to sender, meaning they were never yours. It's someone else's bundle running in your energetic fields. And so for most of you on this session, you've been doing a lot of work cleaning up your consciousness, so to speak, whether it's forgiveness work or belief work where you're really being conscious of I don't deserve or I'm unworthy, that's running in the background, that's affecting your experience of yourself. And so if you haven't done that, I would say that would be a piece, right? That's a piece of this. That's a part of this. But for many of you, because you've been doing that work to bring those things to the surface, to become more aware, to forgive any perceived transgressions, because that will always generate a distortion in the energetic fields of lack. So you can maybe write this down somewhere. Lack of forgiveness will project in my world as lack somewhere because of the frequency of it. The frequency of holding a grudge or not forgiving is like, it vibrates at I don't have. It's the same energy in energetic language. It's the same thing. I don't have. So we're broadcasting somewhere in our energetic fields, even if it's kind of, we repressed it. It happened 10 years ago, but I haven't forgiven it, or it happened 10 lifetimes ago and I haven't forgiven it. It's still broadcasting in your vibration, still going to project in your experience of yourself, even if it's unconscious, repressed. So it's this journey of bringing these things to the surface so we can see them. And really, the first piece is being courageous enough to look at all of it and to feel what it's going to trigger for us to bring up something that triggers an emotion. Deep breath in. And we have several videos out there, 2 or 3 actually. We just did another one on processing emotions, feeling them, and how to do that, how to really forgive fully. So that's on our YouTube channel here. So the piece here I want to focus on, because again, many of you have been doing this work, is what's running in your energetic fields that was agreed to on some level unconsciously to process for another. Meaning you've actually rolled up your sleeves and you've cleaned out a lot of your own, you've cleaned your own house, they're saying, you've done it. But there's still these things. Why is the self-critic still running? I know that I am in integrity with abundance and the knowing I am one with an infinite source. Why am I not experiencing myself as that? I know that I am infinitely worthy and deserving. Why do I still sometimes have these thoughts of not being worthy? So those are examples. So deep breath in. So just inviting you to kind of lean into your higher self, type in the search bar, higher self, what am I still struggling with to heal within my consciousness that isn't even mine? And so inviting your higher self to energetically locate those pieces. And while that's happening, so imagine you can multitask. This part of you that knows is doing that in the background while we now talk about why that can happen. Why would we be trying to process a bundle for someone that isn't ours? The short answer to that is because we took energetic responsibility for them at some point. And when we took energetic responsibility for them, that's equivalent to saying, here, let me be source for you. Deep breath in, saying this very lovingly. A lot of compassion because I've been there. Oh, here, let me be source for you. That's the energetic language again. That's what's happening energetically. As soon as we take responsibility for another being on or off planet, they can be transitioned already, you can still be holding responsibility for them, wanting them to be different, wanting them to be more evolved, wanting them to be more free, more empowered, more loving, more kind, more conscious, more considerate, whatever it is. So wanting for another is the same as trying to choose for them, which is the same as taking energetic responsibility for them. Deep breath in. And we know this is radical. But that's why you're here. You're ready for this step. You're ready to remember what true sovereignty really is, that, oh, I would never want for another because I would not try to usurp their free will. Let them want for themselves. Let their higher self hold the responsibility for what they need, for what they require, for what step they're on. We cannot possibly know what their journey is and what step they're on. That's energetic integrity. That's being in alignment with the most honoring kind of relationship stance, where we're totally hands off, not my choice. It's up to you. Whatever you choose is fine. It's your choice. It's your path. It's your journey. I would never try to control your journey. I would never try to choose for you. I don't know what you're ready for. Your higher self does. Your higher self knows what you're learning, what you're working on. Not my job. I'm going to stay in my own lane. I'm going to only want for me. I'm going to only want for my own joy, my own happiness, my own freedom, my own empowerment, my own abundance, because I can actually choose for me. That's the divine design. Every being chooses for itself and has free will. I'm going to stay in integrity with that. So just inviting you to really feel into this. It's literally a ways of being, but it's like a schematic for the ways of being in oneness, how we behave, how we be, from the knowing that not only am I one with an infinite source, but so is every single being. I will never try to take source's place for them. I'm going to let source be their source. And this can be a huge step for many of us in really becoming aware that we may have been codependent in the past, assuming separation to some degree for someone else. It's like affirming separation for them. If we say, oh, let me take responsibility for you energetically, which we don't necessarily say consciously, but that happens unconsciously when we want for someone. We want them to be more kind or more compassionate or more anything, wanting them to be different than they are. It's the same as judging them, which Jesus talked a lot about, by the way, not to judge. This is why, because when we judge anyone or anything, we disempower them, we take responsibility for them, and things get wonky, because then as soon as we take responsibility for them energetically, we start to take on all their bundles, and it gets really confusing because you're trying to shift things that aren't yours. And the short answer to all of this is you can't shift something that is not yours. It's not calibrated for you. It's of a different fabric. It's not of your essence. You can only shift that which is of your essence. And how intelligent is the divine that it would create a system where everybody can shift their own stuff, and it makes them stronger, it makes them more courageous, it makes them more empowered, it makes them cultivates more freedom for them, more joy for them, more whatever for them, whatever they're working on. But if we try to shift somebody else's stuff, we basically agree to struggle, conflict, disempowerment, separation. And then that becomes our experience of ourselves. So I venture to guess that probably 90% of you that are listening to this are on this step. You've done your work cleaning up your own fields, cleaning up your own consciousness of all the unconscious beliefs that don't serve you, that agree to separation or agree to fear or agree to lack. And you're now ready to say, now, why don't I look at, with my higher self, all the stuff I'm running in my energetic fields that is not even mine, because 10 lifetimes ago, I took responsibility for Aunt Martha, and now I have all of her bundles, trying to shift her bundles. Or the ancestors gave me responsibility for shifting things for them, and I'm trying to shift all the bundles for the ancestors. Because as a more evolved soul, other souls that are less evolved are going to try to give you their bundles, thinking you can shift it for them. Because that's the paradigm of separation consciousness that's in the process of being graduated out of the codependence, the giving responsibility away to someone else to do it for me, which then sets me up to be a victim and to not have. So this is the step. And this is the layer for many of you specifically that you can listen to this recording as many times as you want to support you in really addressing various aspects. So we're going to do a process here to support that. If you have any questions about what we just said, we know it was a lot. You can type it in the chat. So deep breath in. Inviting you at the level of your higher self, body, Davis, higher self, and teams to work with the energetic fields and the guides to bring forward all those pieces that your higher self already located, the energetic responsibility that isn't yours, energetic bundles that are not yours. And your higher self knows this because they're not coded for you. It's a simple process of elimination. This is not of your essence. It goes in this pile. This is of your essence. Okay, we'll keep that. We'll work on those pieces. But what isn't of your essence, just laying it out on the table, inviting your body, David, to do the same for itself, teams for themselves. What are you carrying that isn't yours to carry? And they're saying it this way too. Some of you may resonate with it being said this way. It is not your cross to bear. And deep breath in. Whatever that brings up, will you release and uncreate it? Deep breath in. So from the recognition that if we return these bundles back to where they actually belong, to the appropriate higher selves of who they belong to, then they can actually use these bundles as fuel for their evolution. If we don't give them back, they just have to go get more, meaning it's going to take them longer. So we're not doing anyone a disservice by giving them back their bundles. So can we show you what we mean by that? It's something they designed for themselves as a soul to evolve, to shift themselves, to grow, to expand. It's literally fuel for their evolution. So just inviting you into that interpretation. Okay, good. Deep breath in. I'll answer that question in a moment. Good question. So inviting you to return the level of your higher self, all those energetic bundles and the responsibility for them, all empathic sensations related to them, back to their right and perfect place, along with all relevant and appropriate energetic information where they have the capacity to receive it in the appropriate time spiral continuum. You don't have to know any of that. Your higher self knows. We say the words as a part of the asking. You can just say, yes, higher self, please. Deep breath in, or whatever words resonate for you. And while this is happening, we're just going to clarify a couple things. So when you have an empathic bundle that isn't yours, trying to shift it for someone, again, that you probably took on unconsciously, didn't even realize you took it, or it was given to you, you're going to think those thoughts. You're going to feel those feelings as if they were yours. So it's going to seem like you. It's like your experience of yourself. But again, that's why we started this session with you're not your experience of yourself. That isn't who you are. You're the beam of light, the witness, the awareness behind all of it. So as you orient appropriately, returning all the bundles. Good. Now inviting you at the level of your higher self, body, Davis, higher self, and teams to retrieve any of your energetic fabric you placed on them when you wanted for them. So when we want for someone, we can literally take our creative energy, our desire, and put it on them. So we're trying to use our creative energy to want for another. So we don't have it then for ourselves. We don't have our creative energy to create what we desire, what to access our own resources, to create for ourselves. So just ponder for a moment how many lifetimes you may have been giving away your energetic fabric, your energy of creativity and wanting and desire. so that you might not even be able to connect to what you actually desire now because you don't have your energy to run around that. It's outside of you. It's placed on others, on things, on events, on circumstances where we try to make something in the external world shift instead of using our creative energy in our beam of light to shift our own light, to turn the radio dial a certain way. That's how the proper use of creative energy, of your power, of your wanting, of your desire. We're going to show you what we mean by that. So just inviting you at the level of your higher self, body, Davis, higher self, and teams to work with the energetic fields and the guides to retrieve all of your creative energy, wanting, desire, power nuggets you gave away, gifts, wisdom, mastery you gave away or placed on someone else, trying to help them. It's not calibrated for them, and they can't use it. It would be like trying to run an Android app on an iPhone. It's not compatible. It only works for you. So will you retrieve all of it now in all time frames and dimensions? Invite your higher self to do that. You're not going to do this with the mental mind. You'll give yourself a headache if you try to do it mentally. Allow some energetic aspect of you to do the work. You may start to feel sleepy. That's because your energetic fields are working overtime right now. Retrieving all that creative energy, that desire, your gifts, your wisdom, your mastery, your wanting. Clean it, recalibrate it. It's control energy, really. Clean it, recalibrate it, reweave it in your own energetic fields to use on you, for you. Body, Davis, same, team, same. Retrieving, specifically, they're showing me now support grids that you tried to give away. Get them back so you have that support woven into your energetic fields that can then reflect in your world as support for you. Helpful at all. It's actually disempowering them. Because now they're not going to weave their own support grids. They're trying to use yours and yours don't work for them. There you go. Deep breath in. Retrieve all those. Clean all empathic sensations off of them that aren't yours. Recalibrate it for your current level of consciousness. Finding your higher selves, body, Davis, higher selves, and teams to balance and stabilize your energetic fields. Update all grids, all reference points. Shake out, reboot. Just let that integrate while I answer this question. So if you're anyone and someone asks for your help, can you help them? Or is that codependent? Is that disempowering them? So what we're speaking to is not necessarily behavior in the outer world, an action, as much as it is how we're holding our energy and intention. So we can be an expression of service and support that reflects back to them their own kind of resonance within them of their support within themselves, without taking energetic responsibility for them being supported. So in other words, someone asks for your help. Can you help me carry these groceries? Sure. I'm not in any way trying to be the source of their support. I'm not taking responsibility for them being supported. Deep breath in. There's energy moving here, so I'm just going to watch it. I'm just being in the energy of service to the degree that feels appropriate. So if it feels like a very natural extension of your being, what you're being, that energy of love and service, be it. If it starts to feel like an obligation or, oh, I want to make sure they're okay, that's where we're running a codependent. We're coming from a codependent energy. And so I would, maybe while you're practicing this new way of being and this new way of holding your energy and this new way of thinking, to be deliberate about how you're running your energy, consciously choosing, I would recommend that you literally say to yourself, to your higher self, when someone asks for your help, I'm choosing to encourage them to hold responsibility for their own self. their own support, their own safety, whatever it is they're at, right? Asking, their own soothing, their own comfort. I can show up and reflect it back to them. I can show them and demonstrate how I comfort myself. I can offer suggestions on how I, work with my own consciousness, my own, whatever your tools are that you use, your mechanisms for coping, for functioning. Well, this is what I do. If it resonates, you can use it. But we don't get attached to them using it. We don't get attached to them fixing or changing anything. It's just offering suggestion. Well, this is what I do, following guidance for those of you who have really cultivated that, leaning into that. What's most helpful here is the question I like to ask. Because within that attitude of what's most helpful, what I mean by helpful is serving the highest good of all, including me. I'm not separating myself and putting myself last and trying to be a martyr, putting them up here and letting them be the one that gets to benefit and I don't. It's everybody benefits. Where does that possibility live? That's the energy I'm choosing to invite. So what's the most helpful in the whole big picture, zoomed out picture, big scheme of things? And so you can practice this way of approaching different situations. Maybe I'm just being shown the idea of somebody that's holding a sign that's homeless that says they want money or they need money. Check in. Is this mine to contribute or not? And you might get a no. And the reason they're giving me this example because I recently saw a story that was published that really resonated for me. There was a reporter that went out and interviewed all these homeless people in around LA. And he really did a good job of getting all sides to the story. He talked to several different homeless people, got their stories. He talked to people who used to be homeless, got their stories. He talked to the business owners of the people, the business owners who owned businesses like where these people were living, that it then impacted their business. And they, of course, had compassion for them, but it's complicated. It's very complex, they're showing me. It's complicated. So in calling forth this idea of what's the highest good of all, we look at all sides to the story and suspend any judgment, the best way to do it is that you get all the information. You can actually receive the information mentally, because if you're in a conclusion, you won't actually hear the information of all sides. You'll hear information that validates the side you're on. So the appropriate way to approach anything where you're wanting to really get to the bottom of something or to attune to the highest possibility, or to know what's going on in truth, is to suspend all conclusions, to not come from any assumptions or what we think is best for anybody, because this brings us back to the sovereignty. We don't know what's best, the highest good for that soul. We can't possibly know what their journey is, what they're cultivating for themselves, what they're learning. So when we are presented with this kind of opportunity to choose, rather than come from assumption, oh, well, they must need, let me fill that need for them, because that's the codependent pattern speaking. We can come from awareness, we can check in, and we can ask our guidance, is this for me to support in any way, or just allow them to be where they are? And that way we're following the guidance of source, of the divine design, of who's really meant to go where and do what in the grand scheme of things. So we're not trying to take responsibility for someone having. So I hope that helps explain that. Let me see the second part of the question. So wishing someone well, that's interesting. I've changed my languaging a lot. Some of you might have noticed this. It depends on what you mean by those words. It's really about intention. When we wish someone well, are we saying good journey? Like whatever you're meant to be, do, and have an experience, may you do it in an empowered way, if that honors you. So it's like this unattachment where we're not expecting them to be joyful every day of their life, or in a certain experience, whatever that is, whatever we decided should be their experience. So what does wishing them well mean to you? That the guides are saying, it's like really maybe get clear on that, and you can redefine what it means from a place of sovereignty, from a place of not taking responsibility or wanting for them. And then those intentions are infused in the words. So it's more about the intention than it is about the words. The words are symbols, and we can infuse whatever intentions, meaning into that. But it's more about us being deliberate in what energy we're choosing to come from. Are we agreeing and aligning with them as a sovereign being that's connected to an infinite source and coming from that energy when we wish them well? Or are we trying to give them something they don't already have, which isn't really true? They actually have access to everything. They just are learning how to do that again. So hopefully that example helps to clarify that. Okay. All right. Well, the guides, thank you for your feedback, by the way, everyone. The guides are saying it's about time to wrap up. I'm just going to see here if there's any little last pieces. So they're going to bring in, again, unique to each of you, some energetic downloads to help you in your discernment, they're saying. In your discernment on how to really navigate, and to really, it's about you checking in within you what energy you're coming from and getting really clear about that, because that's really the key. Am I choosing to come from lack, or trying to be source for someone, or trying to make someone outside of me source for me, or something outside of me source for me? Or am I really holding that integrity with the truth, the oneness, the divine design, where I'm most of the time, if not 24/7, agreeing with, aligning with, and agreeing with, and compatible with the laws of oneness, the knowing I am one with an infinite source and so is all life. Because coming from that energy is very different than coming from assuming lack, assuming they need you to be something for them, assuming you need to be, assuming you need to be something for them, either way, that they need it or you need it. And they're saying you can actually get really, like, you could just take this piece and work on it for years, actually, to get really, really clear on this one thing, to get conscious of the unconscious patterns that have been running in the past, that have been running the show in the background, where we've been attempting to give responsibility for our needs away, or be the one who's responsible for meeting someone else's needs. Because as long as we continue to perpetuate, there's nothing wrong with those patterns and those ways of being. None of it's right or wrong. It's just a choice that we can choose. And if we become conscious that it's a choice, and we maintain conscious awareness around it, we can begin to choose in favor of making a different choice rather than the codependence, because that will just give us the struggle, the distortion, the lack, the separation, and the disempowerment. That's what lives there. That's the world we're plugging into and agreeing with when we run codependency. And it's a choice, and it's fine. And we can keep doing it if it's too uncomfortable to change. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that. There's still learning that can happen there. But what we would suggest is that if you're listening to this, you're ready. It's a choice for you to kind of begin to move into this step of rewiring into the divine blueprint, the oneness, the sovereignty, the place that honors the free will of all, and you hold all of your nuggets, your energy, your power within your beam so that it reflects in your experience of yourself, and you begin to be the way shower in a very potent way of the new earth, of heaven on earth, of who we are in truth as one with an infinite source. Because you begin to simply manifest as source itself. There's no separation. So this reinterpretation of manifestation is simply, I am. And source functions as me, through me. And I don't need to get. So we replace the needing to get with the choosing to be. Deep breath in. We're going to model this. We're going to turn up the volume here quite a bit on this energetic stance. And it's really what Gandhi meant when he said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Be the resonance, the frequency within you. Invite your higher self to activate it. We'll point back to the tool we did a moment ago with locating, inviting your higher self to locate the dimension where you're already in the experience of heaven and reflecting it to yourself here. That is you choosing to be it. Resonate there. This is science. This isn't some abstract thing. When you activate the frequency, the resonance of what heaven is, it will reflect in your experience. And the more you do it, the greater ways it will show up. Now, will you get some distortion too if you still have things running in your energetic fields that aren't honoring or aren't yours? And as you know, those of you who've been doing this work for a while, there are layers that we move through. So we do these processes several times, if not, I mean, I've been doing this for this particular kind of protocol that I do now in my sessions with returning responsibility and getting responsibility back, and sending bundles back and getting my energy back. That's been a 2.5-year process. I'm still working those pieces for myself and my body, Deva. So there are layers. Why are there layers? Well, because we've been doing this for quite a few lifetimes. So just like peeling an onion, right? It takes time to begin to move back into the truth of our being. And it's really this idea of, they're showing me the carving of David, that Michelangelo said, well, David was always there. I just removed what wasn't him. We're in this process of removing what isn't of our essence so that we can simply be our essence again in a true, pure way. So I'm very grateful to each of you for choosing to join live, and this recording will be up on the YouTube channel. I just shared a link if you want to learn more about our 7-day immersion, which is all about remembering heaven on earth. We're going to move through various aspects of the recalibration, the reprogramming, the unprogramming, the rewiring our energetic fields and our consciousness for a higher vibration and a higher expression. And we're just going to bring in the energetic environment right now, if you want to connect to what that is, of that 7-day immersion, what it feels like, what it represents for you. Beautiful. You can spend as much time as you want in that energetic environment. It is an attunement to a higher octave of your expression. I always love our immersions because they're always extremely magical. If you can imagine what just happened in an hour and 20 minutes, or however long it's been, hour and 10 minutes, 11 minutes, of course. Imagine what happens in 7 days, marinating. It's like a steady incline into a higher expression, and then we stabilize it so you can hold it, so you can maintain it and sustain it. Usually by the 4th or 5th day, we usually have a massive breakthrough. I'm being reminded of our 7-day immersion in Arkansas in the Crystal Vortex. It was like day 5. Yep. Cosmic. It just felt like a cosmic boom happened. It was so incredible. And I know many of this session, you were in Arkansas, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it always, in some way, it's like a crescendo. We get to like this crescendo, and it's always so beautiful and so powerful. So feel into whether it's for you to be, do, and have. And we'd love to have you there with us. We are offering an early bird price now through the end of July. So I always recommend following your knowing. But it's really, again, you leaning into what you know for you and what you're being called to be, do, and have. And you'll know. You'll know. But it's in Mount Shasta, California. I didn't say that, did I? So 7-day immersion. Remember, we're going to also spend time in nature. And there are several various magical nature places we're going to go visit and just be in to support in the elevation that's being welcomed. So it'll be a combination of session time and then time in nature, time to integrate. And it's always a wonderful collaboration with like-minded people that has its own benefits, where conversations happen outside of sessions and in and around at lunchtime and whatever, and things happen there too that are also very magical for people. So yeah, join us if it resonates and feel into all that's actually there for you to receive, if you choose. And then we're also going to be offering a Lionsgate transmission on August 8th. 8/8 is the Lionsgate, and it's a Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's actually on our website at embracingtheinfinite.com. You can learn more about that and register. It will be a 75-minute transmission that will harness the power of that amazing, auspicious Lionsgate portal. And when I look at the energy that's humanity's moving into right now, which means, again, it's for each of us to ride in our own unique way. So these waves of expansion that continue to come, we're in the midst of one right now in this full moon energy. And then again, we're going to hit another wave with the Lionsgate, August 8th, right? It'll start a couple days prior. It's all about stepping into your next level of mastery. For humanity, it's about moving into the willingness to begin to welcome heaven as a possibility. I say that with all the love in my heart. It's just, I'm not laughing at them. I'm laughing at the irony of the discrepancy of like where some of us are on the planet and where most of humanity is. So humanity is going to be moving into the willingness. And they've been doing this for the last year and a half. The willingness to welcome heaven as a possibility. Because first we have to be willing. That's the first step. And maybe even willing to be willing. That was last year. This is So they had to be willing. And now it's about, okay, can I move into the willingness to welcome heaven as a possibility? So if it's not congruent with their soul's path, they're not going to choose it, which means they're probably going to find a way to leave the planet and come allowing, because Gaia's terrain is changing. And there's a lot of change coming that is all for the highest good. But whenever we're in the midst of a change, in this turnover energy of the old falling away to make room for the new, it can feel scary for most people on the planet that don't have the awareness we have, because they don't understand what's going on. But if we know, okay, this is leaving so something better can come to take its place, we can hold and stabilize the vibration, which is why we're here, to hold the knowing that all is well, regardless of appearances. This is going to change. This is going to morph. The old systems are going to fall and fade so the new can come in. And with this wave that we're in now and that we're moving into with the Lion's Gate, really until through October, it's all about laying the cards on the table, is what the guides are showing me right now. Seeing everything. And we pointed to this a moment ago. It's like, are we really willing to see all the cards on the table and to know what actually is currently expressing, so that we can then be in our conscious free will and choice to choose what we'd really choose? So it's all about transparency, disclosure, corruption being revealed, and so we're going to bring in some energetic downloads to support you in how to hold your energy in the midst of this. It's like you can lean into the part of you that knows what it's all for while you go through the experience and the script and witness what humanity's, it's like the unveiling of what's going to be unveiled, so to speak, the truth revealed. And it's going to happen in various areas of the planet, not just where I am in the world, not just the US. But it's happening so that things can become really, really clear. And when we can actually see what's going on, we can begin to choose in favor of what actually benefits the highest good of all. But if there's deception going on, things behind the scenes that we don't really see or know is happening, and we think everything's okay, then it's not really us and our free will and choice, because information is being withheld. So for humanity, it's like this idea of graduating out of the codependency into the sovereignty. In order for true sovereignty to express true free will, there has to be full disclosure. Because if we don't know what we're really choosing, we're kind of being deceived and duped, and that isn't really free will. So that's what this phase right now, that's going to start to get more intense. It's already happening. It's already happened over the last year, but it's going to start to get more intense again. Things are going to start to be revealed. It's probably through 2023. That's what it feels like. 2022 is going to be a little more of it. More. Not at once. It's going to come in stages. So the guides are saying the best energetic stance to hold is just to stay open and unattached to an outcome. And the way you do that, one way to do that, is to be willing to release all the conclusions you've made that aren't true. So we would invite you into that now. And you can re-listen to this as many times as you want. If you're not ready now, you can revisit it in a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2 months or a year. Are you willing to release all the conclusions you've made that aren't true? And to release your attachment to the stories that are inaccurate? perceptions that are inaccurate, beliefs that are inaccurate. And whatever doesn't allow that, we release and uncreate it. And the guides are saying there are times that we resist truth because we don't want to feel what it's going to trigger for us when we become aware of what's actually true. So whatever all that is, are you willing to begin to hand that over to your higher self for reinterpretation, Body Deva 2, for itself? And to simply anchor in to the truth of your being, to ride the waves. I know who I am in truth, and that's really all that matters. This is all going to morph and change out here in the outer world because we're moving into a whole new phase, a whole new playground for consciousness, so to speak. It has to reform itself to set the new stage for humanity's next phase. And so there's nothing to fear. That's really the bottom line. We know we say that a lot. You've heard us say that a lot, but there's nothing to fear. Absolutely nothing to fear. And so as you move through these changes, if you find that fear does get triggered for you, again, we have recordings where you can go on our YouTube channel and listen to a 6-minute, 7-minute recording that helps you process that fear, that emotion. But it's really about also doing this inner inquiry of, have I tried to make this thing out here my source? And now that it's going away, I think I'm not going to have whatever it represents or symbolizes for me. So the more that we can anchor into our beam as source, bring all our reference points back to our beam, live there, the easier it's going to be. And the more we serve, because we're modeling the solution to humanity of how to ride the waves with grace and ease, balance it so it doesn't get, it's like we're a stabilizing force for the waves of shifting. So anyway, appreciate your feedback, appreciate your comments. You're very welcome. Thank you for showing up. And the guides are just now showing up in the Council of Light, just acknowledging you, acknowledging your courage to know truth, to be truth, to remember what you are in truth, even though it goes against everything you've been taught. And also just gratitude for you being present on the planet at this time, because whether you know it or not, you're serving to bring about the manifestation of the new earth with as much grace and ease as possible. And this is the beginning stages. We're in the beginning stages of heaven on earth being birthed. And the birthing process is a birthing process. So if we know that's what's happening, again, we can hold the space for it. We can know that everything's okay, even though it doesn't look like it in the outer world, while simultaneously leaning into our own light, our own beam, our own knowing, our own power, and letting it guide, direct, and lead us into an expression, an experience that doesn't have to be struggle-based, that can be harmonious, that can mirror heaven on earth. And so that takes some finesse and some mastery, my friends. And the guides are just saying, like, acknowledging the level of mastery that you hold, because it's like the ultimate multitasking where you're able to do that. And you're able to even fathom what that is. So take a moment to just acknowledge this for yourself and appreciate this for yourself, that you can even hear these words, and recognize that this is a multidimensional transmission. So every time you listen to it, you'll hear things a bit differently. You'll get it deeper. You might even wonder, did she even say that last time? Or I didn't even hear what she said the first time. Know that it's all part of the rewiring process. And again, just very grateful for your willingness to show up, your willingness to grow and evolve in a conscious way. We look forward to connecting with you again soon. And if you have any feedback for us, let us know. Much love.